lose sleep at night? Grab your pillow tight. Do you struggle to find why Han and Luke had to die? Are you just a mess? Does Hollywood leave you stressed? Because their sequels are more important than fan requests. Hold on to your chair, cause Talking Poop takes you there. You might have to change into some new underwear. Talking Poop.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Poop, the podcast where we talk about movies, music, and media. I'm your host, Jason Bromley, and with me today is a very special guest, a lovely lady that we call Lauren Rene Bromley. Lauren, as you know, if you've listened to the podcast as of late, I've been very upset that I don't have a nickname. And even you, just plain old Lauren, gets a nickname. Everybody calls you Lulu. What's up with that? Like, I can't get a nickname to save my life.
I didn't know you wanted one.
I've always wanted one my whole life, and no one's given me one.
Do you feel left out?
I call you Lulu more than I call you Lauren.
Or McCauldron.
Or McCauldron, which is silly, but it's still a nickname.
All right, well, your mom calls you Jace.
Ugh, I hate that.
I don't know of a podcast nickname we can give you.
It doesn't have to be a podcast nickname. It's not because the podcast that I have a nickname. I'm using the podcast as my podium to get a nickname. But I shouldn't have to fucking ask for a nickname. I should be given one by the people that care about me.
All right, I'll put some thought into it.
That's the thing.
Effort into it.
What, did people put thought and effort into your nickname?
No, I made my own because that's how I roll.
How did Lulu happen?
I said, call me Lulu. I don't know. It just kind of formulated. My family used to call me Rene for Rene, and I hated it because it always reminded me of like runny boogers.
Ew.
Yeah, so I hated that nickname. And then Lulu just kind of came about probably because my nephews couldn't say my name. Lauren. So then they just say Lulu.
Mexican people can't say my name. They say Hasun.
Or Hasten.
Hasten. There's no H in my name.
That's how you pronounce the letter J in Spanish.
But I still didn't get a nickname out of it. And I'm really upset about it. So I'm putting it out there to our podcast listeners to give me a nickname. I want you to call it out the window like the little kid in the Neverending Story. And give me a name. It's the only way to save the world.
Oh man. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking right now. And I'm like, I can't even, I don't know. It's not coming to me. I thought it was a booger, but it's not.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to start this podcast on a bummer, but this is kind of a different podcast for us because normally we're talking about a movie that we love off the bat and that it has general love for everybody. Today, we're talking about a movie that I think really splits the population. And you came into it like as a virgin. I picked this movie kind of out of the blue and sprung it on you.
I didn't do anything as a virgin. Just kidding. I was a virgin when you met me.
Yeah, right. So our topic this week is the 1996, dare I say classic, modern day classic, Jerry Maguire.
My name is Jerry Maguire. I'm a sports agent. You could say I'm at the top of my game, but something just isn't right.
Starring the effervescent Tom Cruise, I don't know what to call her. She was
super adorable in the movie.
Rene Zellweger.
Yeah.
And Cuba Gooding Jr.
Before I started to hate him.
Well, this is the thing, is that, okay, we have to put ourselves, to judge this film, you have to put yourself back into the world of 1996 where things were so much less cynical. And before we knew that Tom Cruise was a weirdo Scientologist that probably has the power to have people murdered just by saying the words.
And like stirples up his butt.
That's Richard Gere. That's a totally different guy.
No, it's not. It's him and John Travolta.
No. Gerbils and Scientology have nothing to do with each other. You're mixing up your urban myths. But there are just as horrible things as gerbils going around out that like they have the power to do pretty much whatever they want. And they are the face of Scientology. But Scientology isn't an evil religion. It's just as weird as everybody else's religion. Is it any weirder that you know, you're Catholic and you believe that... I
am not Catholic.
You were brought up
so
Catholic.
What?
So that makes you... The last religion that you were was Catholic.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
I am not my religion or my hair Or your wife.
You are not.
I am not the
khakis.
only
Wait a
thing.
minute, you are my wife by a lifetime law.
But that's not the only thing that I am, and religion certainly doesn't define me, especially when I was forced to.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to make a political or religious statement here. I was just saying that.
Well, then fucking don't.
You were brought up Catholic, and is it any crazier to believe that Moses fucking parted the Red Sea, or that they made a boat that all two of every animal fit on?
No, not really.
Or that a burning on fire bush can
There's a
talk.
difference between crazy in like how you believe in it versus they do crazy shit that is definitely not societally kosher.
There's no proof of that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about religious beliefs. We're here to talk about that Tom Cruise seems to be a weirdo in his public life. This was before all of that information was made public. This was before jumping up and down on the couch on Oprah, telling how in love with Katie Holmes he was, which just seemed like a whole weird thing. So this is just back when he was a superstar. Mm-hmm. And this was back before Rene Zellweger was a weirdo trash person.
What? Just because she felt like she wanted to change the way she looked?
She changed the way she looked, like in a Michael Jackson way, like where you can't recognize her anymore.
That's true. But...
as Rene Zellweger. But in this movie, she was very cute.
Yeah.
And later on, even before she changed her looks, I began to hate her face.
Why?
Because she has a stupid scrunched up, like I just sucked on a lemon face.
Oh my gosh, she totally does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she has that thing with her, like, she pouches her lips.
She pooches her lips out, yeah. And they kind of look like a butthole, like. And then her voice was like, I thought enduring when I saw Jerry Maguire, but as the movies went on, her voice started to grate on me more and more and more.
It's a little whiny and nasally.
Yeah.
But still, we're nitpicking. Doesn't matter. That's an attribute that you can't
I'm saying that I'm trying to take you back to a place before all of this.
Which we're doing right now.
Which is what we're doing. We're going back to 1996.
Was that your time machine? Yeah. That was fabulous.
Don't you feel like younger?
Yeah.
You're 1996 Lulu.
Yeah, 1996 Lulu. What was I, 10?
Holy shit. I married a child.
Yeah. Yeah, so did I.
In 1996, I was a junior in high school. And I remember I went to the theater to see Jerry Maguire. And I used to see everything back then, so it probably wasn't even a big deal. But I remember that this movie touched my heart and made me feel like there was hope for the world and that people could become better people just by being cute.
Just by trying, you mean?
No. Well, yes. I believe, 1996, Jason believed that Tom Cruise started off the movie as kind of a like self-centered person, and then by the end of the movie,
throughout like 90% of it.
This is the thing: is that 96, Jason says like he was on a journey throughout the movie to the point where he was becoming a better person the moment he met Rene Zellweger, his character. Mm-hmm. But 2019, cynical, older Jason sees that he was a goddamn sociopath through the entire movie and really never changes. By the end, when we're supposed to believe that he changes, he's still a sociopath. He's just lying to himself now because he thinks it's the right thing to do.
Well, I wouldn't be that negative about it. Personally, coming in from like seeing it the other night versus when I sort of saw it as a younger version of myself. But yeah, no, I liked it better this time.
That's kind of our thoughts on the whole thing.
Right.
But we should take it back. Not to 1996. Let's come back from 1996. Okay. The other night, I sat you down to watch Jerry Maguire. You said, I've never seen Jerry Maguire. I said, who the fuck have I married that you haven't seen Jerry Maguire? Now, like 90% of the older movies that I say, I can't believe you haven't seen that. Like 10 minutes into it, you have some sort of weird, like, caffeine-induced, like, inception that all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have seen this. Thus deflating all of my hopes and dreams to be showing you a new movie.
Well, yeah, that's true. But
Why do you do that to me?
Because I don't remember.
What's
How
wrong
many
with you?
movies have we seen? You have over 1,000 DVDs.
It doesn't matter.
Days.
What was your life before you met me? How do you watch a movie and not know? You probably watched a movie in bed with another man. You probably watched this movie.
I never watched movies with other men.
Don't lie to me. Yes, you did.
At least not in bed. Really?
How do you not remember all? You've seen a bunch of movies apparently.
I've seen a ton of movies.
Our first date, I said, "Oh, cool. I like movies. Do you like movies?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah, I love movies." And I was like, "What's your favorite movie?" And you're like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe like Pirates of the Caribbean, movies like that."
I hated Pirates of the Caribbean.
I don't know why you said that. I know you didn't believe it when you said it.
It wasn't Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes, it was.
Boondock Saints.
And then you said, "Oh, I know one. Boondock Saints." Which, for me...
Which a lot of people love. And William Dafoe is amazing.
I've never met another person other than me that doesn't love Boondock Saints. I despise that movie. It's such a piece of horseshit. It's the most overrated movie I've ever seen.
I mean, I'm pretty spot on with it. I like it for what it is. I don't think it's something else other than what it is. I just enjoy it.
My thing with Boondock Saints is this. I think that with Boondock Saints, that people felt that they were discovering something. And I remember being back in those days, like the movie Swingers. I discovered Swingers. Like, I had heard things about it in magazines. Mm-hmm. You guys don't know what those are, but those were paper that came together in a book format. They were binded, and you would read articles.
They'd be sent to you in the mailbox.
They came in the mail from a man.
Like twice a week or twice a month. It was like the best day ever when you got your Teen Vogue and your...
I never got Teen Vogue. Like, mine was like Entertainment Weekly. Oh. But I would get my Entertainment Weekly, and I would go and I'd read like the indie hits, and they would talk about movies like Swingers and Clerks and things like that. And so, like, I would then go to the movie store and I'd have to ask the guy, "Hey, do you have Swingers?" And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, dude, we got like one copy and we just keep it here behind the desk so people have to ask for it." And I'm like, why the fuck do you keep it behind the desk? Like, how are people going to rent it? And he's like, "Because we only have one copy and it's like, it's first come, first served." Anyway, it was things like that, you know, that made you like, "Oh, they keep this behind the desk."
So that was back in the day when the thrill of the hunt for the movie, for the VHS tape.
Exactly, the
in that
thrill of the hunt.
God-awful plastic case that you couldn't ever pop open.
Yes.
That's what it was. That's what you're in love with.
You had to go to the video store and you had to hunt it out. And even like when you go to like Blockbuster, you know, they had the cover of the movie sitting there. Mm-hmm. But if the video cassette wasn't behind it, then they didn't have the movie. So it was like they showed you the picture of it, but it was just haunting you.
Yeah.
It was a tease. But it was the hunt of the thrill. Like when you would see
the hunt of the thrill.
much like betting you for the first time. It was the hunt of the thrill.
This never happened.
It was the hunt of the thrill. I hunted you, and then it was
conceived those two kids by immaculate conception.
Osmosis.
Just went into the Baby Gap store and then became pregnant.
I've heard that's happened before, actually. For anybody wondering what that sound is, that's me drinking for the first time a delightful chai latte.
Iced. From Starbizzle.
I needed some caffeine. I normally don't drink anything coffee related. I've had hot chai tea, but cold sounds
coffee.
Disgusting.
It's black tea with creamer in it. High class.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Aren't I high class? Mm.
Anyway, back to this movie. I didn't realize that I had seen it to the extent that I did. I knew I had seen snippets from it. So when we finally sat down and watched it the other night and we started getting into it, then I started remembering it more as the movie progressed. And I had no recollection of Cuba Gooding Jr. being in it at all, which he's a huge, person in that, so character. But once I started watching him, then I was like, oh shit, yeah, I remember this. So I'm sure at some point I've seen the whole movie, but you know me, I can't sit down to save my life. So when I don't remember seeing a movie, it's probably because I was doing 18 things while watching the movie. Like vacuuming and dusting or doing laundry.
You were 10 years old. You were not vacuuming and dusting when you were 10 years old.
I probably saw it when I was in high school or college. Probably high school.
Okay, here's the thing though. Jerry Maguire is so part of the zeitgeist now with the whole "you complete me" and "show me the money." Are you sure that you did see it, or have you just seen clips of like "show me the money" and "you complete me" and "you had me at hello"?
No, because there were little parts and pieces about the movie that I did recall, like whole sequences and scenes that I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is, as if I had watched it before. So I'm sure I've seen it before. I just don't recall sitting down. I don't know when I saw it. I know I've seen it.
So it made such a little impression on you that you don't even remember watching it.
Yeah. But that's how all movies are for me. I mean, there are very few movies, unless I am already emotionally charged while I'm watching a movie, where I am in a situation to directly relate to that movie or a scene from the movie, that I actually end up remembering them later.
So do you relate to movies? Do you find yourself relating to movies?
Yes, but not on any given day.
And
I have to be emotionally charged already and have that feeling already brought up, and then have it match that emotional vibration or whatever it is.
So you're saying that you have to feel a feeling, then watch a movie, and then it connects. You don't see the movie and then it connects you to a feeling that you've had? Because
only if it's recent, yes. If it's a recent feeling, like if I've gone through a breakup and then I unexpectedly see a movie and it's got some scene in it that triggers the exact same emotion, you know, like maybe the girl in the movie, you know, lost somebody and it felt, you know, like when I was talking about the whole the movie with P.S. I Love You, you know, it's like that, where I had just gone through a breakup and it was like it felt like somebody died, and so yes, I related to it at that time, but that's how all movies are for me.
So what I'm asking is, if you watch P.S. I Love You now, would it take you back to that place that you were then?
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking. You're saying that if you watch a movie that has imprinted on you, that's what I'm talking about right now, is like movies imprinting on your brain.
Right.
So you saw Jerry Maguire, and for me, when I saw it in 96, it imprinted on my brain, and I've carried that with me through all this time. Now, in subsequent viewings, I can go back and watch Jerry Maguire, and it can take me back to things that I felt before Jerry Maguire or things that I was feeling in 1996. And that's what you're saying about P.S. I Love You. You saw it and it imprinted on you at that time.
Right.
But if you watch P.S. I Love You now, it will make you feel the way that it made you feel back then. But can you take your mind to a place where that didn't happen? If you just saw P.S. I Love You, it just came out now and that scene happened, do you think that would you be like, oh man, that just takes me right back to that place?
No, I think that the reason movies imprint on you is because when you see them, I think it's really rare for a movie to do that, to have that deep connection. It happens once in a blue moon, where you're in a very specific point in your life and you're doing something and you watch a movie and for some reason it's just relatable on a very, very deep level, like to the point where, like you say, it imprints on you. You know, I have songs like that from the 90s and the early 200s that do the same thing. You know, I can immediately recall exactly how I felt, or the smell of the desert air at the time. You know, I remember certain things that are intrinsically connected to it. And then other movies that I was in a very, you know, I don't know, I just wasn't in an emotionally charged state when I watched it to have that connection. So I think that a lot of people are like that.
And I think I'm more sensitive to it. I especially was when I was younger, but I also don't feel like movies really like go for the feels as much anymore. Like, you know, there aren't very many movies like Jerry Maguire that are like a character piece, like a modern day character piece, that tries to, like, I don't know, everything just seems like big and explosive, and, you know, nothing is just a simple human story anymore.
Well, we're very into the flashy popcorn movies where we want entertainment, and if it doesn't create a home run in the first showing, then it's not good enough. So these character pieces like you're talking about, like Jerry Maguire, where they made a quality story. I mean, that's always constantly something that we talk about and that you hear about in radio shows and all of your movie buddies where they say, you know, there's just no good story writers out there. They're continuing to recycle the same bullshit. It's just, those stories don't exist anymore because the writing has changed and the way people watch movies has changed.
Well, and part of it is that, so Jerry Maguire was written by Cameron Crowe. Mm-hmm. And Cameron Crowe is very famous and very good at, I think, getting to those like base human emotions that we all feel. And he's very good at finding like those emotions that connect on a global level. Like,
so is there a writer right now that you think is similar to that has that ability?
Not in the same way. You know, there are still writers out there that are doing that kind of thing, but even Cameron Crowe himself has like, he's still out there, but he's only done a handful of films. Like Cameron Crowe did Say Anything, which is the same kind of thing. Yeah. Like it's about two kids falling in love. And that movie like takes me back to my high school romances.
So there's either two things going on here. Either one, movie making and writing has changed to accommodate a different outlook and different way people exist in the world today. Or you have grown up and no longer see things the way you did at that age. How do you know that there isn't a young 15-year-old watching the movies that are in the theater right now feeling those same feelings and having those same connections at their young tender age of these crazy emotions and all this drama in their life and time to think about it because they don't have to go to work or raise a family or grocery shop and do all that stuff. You know, they have time to think about their emotions and place them and relate them to movies and music. How do you know it's not one over the other?
I hope that is the case. I hope that
that you just got old.
Well, that's the thing though, is that I got old and all the people that I've loved and inspired me are old too. Like Blink-182 are a bunch of old men now.
But they're still super popular.
Guns N' Roses are a bunch of old dudes. Korn are all old dudes. 9 Inch Nails was like the edgiest shit, and now he's just an old dude. Like,
and those are people you related to.
And but what's weird too is that the actors that we're following and we're in love with is like, we still got like Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, you know,
Denzel Washington.
These guys
Morgan
were all
Freeman.
guys that were around in the 80s, and it doesn't seem like
Christian Slater.
We're still watching the same guys. Not so much Christian Slater.
Well, but he was around at that time where he was pretty famous for a long time.
He was very famous, but he's like not really. I wouldn't say he's kept his fame like the other people that we mentioned. But a lot of these guys, like, where's the new talent coming in? You know, like I feel as an old person,
we just don't notice it because we're not at that level.
I wonder, but I don't think so. I think the kids are too busy fucking playing Minecraft and shit and not like thinking and experiencing life like we did. They're all tapped into their phones and they're tapped into something, but is that something going to be something that inspires them to be able to create emotion? Like, and what I wanted to say earlier with Cameron Crowe was that I think that Cameron Crowe, like, he does the same thing and he's repeated it over and over again with his movies.
Like he used the same formula when he was writing? Kind
of, yes. But his goal always is to make a human story. There's no explosions. There's no car chases. No bank heists. Right. It's always a character-driven piece. And it's not necessarily like Young Love either. You know, he's done Elizabethtown. He did Singles. Singles wasn't necessarily about young love as much as it was about just young people and how they were experiencing music and that whole like grunge alternative era that came out in the early 90s. And like he wanted to talk about that. Everything that Cameron Crowe does is like him wanting to talk and get to people. And I think that John Hughes was like that too, like where his stories were, it didn't matter so much about what the story was. You knew you were going to like get these characters that were going to have all these pieces of your life that were relatable.
Right.
And I think that's something that like, it doesn't matter if you're black or white, gay or straight or whatever. I think we all have these things that we all feel the same together, but we're too scared to talk to each other to realize that like we have all these similarities and we all have these same feelings. And what these movies do, they're not just talking to me. It wasn't just me that tapped into it. Like tons and tons of people liked Jerry Maguire. And it was because it speaks to a wide audience.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't that I didn't like it the first time. It's just that and maybe it was because I was younger when it came out, and at the time I wasn't able to relate to it because I wasn't experiencing those same aspects of what was going on in the film in my own life because I was so much younger. Whereas you were right at the cusp of like love. I mean, I was too young to even have like boyfriends at that time, you know? So
I remember though as a little kid, before I'd ever experienced love, like when I was like 10 and 11, being like, oh, like that's what I want. Like I want a beautiful
like Princess
girl
Bride.
Totally like Princess Bride.
Yeah, but
like,
that wasn't the same. I mean, that was fairy tale love versus Jerry Maguire love. Had you watched Jerry Maguire at the tender age of 10, I guarantee you wouldn't have felt the same way you did when you were in high school when you saw it.
I don't know. I always picked up on the love stories.
It's because you're a sap.
I am a sap.
I love you.
I've always been a sap, and I've always wanted to be romantic. But then when you try to be romantic, it's just cheesy and not romantic. Like when I proposed to you.
Oh, that was so cute. I love
No, it
that.
wasn't, because I asked you out to dinner and you knew I was fucking broke. And so you were like, oh, this must be something big if he's taking me out to dinner. And then I took you back to the place where we met to propose because that was as romantic as I could think of. And you totally knew what I was going to do, like
and
the whole night.
I still loved it. So what? I knew. I loved it. Anyway, Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, so from the writing point, from the very beginning, Cameron Crowe wrote this story. It took him 3 years to write the script because he couldn't just get it right. And what's kind of crazy about it is that the whole like story of Jerry Maguire is about a guy who works for a sports agency. He's a sports agent.
I will not rest until I have you holding a Coke, wearing your own shoe, playing a Sega game, featuring you while singing your own song in a new commercial starring you, broadcast during the Super Bowl in a game that you are winning, and I will not sleep until that happens.
And he has this like, I don't know, what do you call it when when he decides to change? That kid like makes him feel bad.
Yeah.
And so he has a
Just
epiphany?
a life-changing moment, an epiphany. I don't know.
I like how they show it because it looks like he's having a panic attack. Like,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, he's in the hotel and he's
in the hotel,
sweating and he's having a bad
he
dream
can't
and then,
sleep.
and then he's like freaking out and he wraps himself up like a burrito in a quilt.
Yeah. And so he's like having a panic attack and he snaps and he goes and he writes this mission statement, not a memo, mission statement.
Right.
But he says that like we should have, he remembers why he got into anything. I think all of us can relate to that too. A time when,
Before you got jaded.
yeah, before you
When
got
you
jaded and
started
before
something.
money became
Yeah.
such a thing.
When you still had passion for whatever it was you were doing.
Right. It doesn't matter if you were a movie maker or if you were in a band. I think that it starts off wanting to inspire people and wanting to
Just do it for the love of it.
you do it for the love of it. Exactly. It doesn't matter about the money or any of that. So he writes a memo statement or a mission statement essentially saying that like, let's go back to a time when we all started off in this thing and it was about like bringing entertainment to people. And that essentially fucks him in the ass because that's not the jaded world that we live in. And that, it's all about money now. And that's the same thing with what we're talking about movies changing, is that movies, because they cost so much now and because the studios are the way that they are, they can't afford to take a gamble on a piece about people that may not connect with, with everybody. Now they have to, they're like, they have to bank on it being, based on a book or a comic book or something that people already like. And then on top of that, they're like, okay, now we have to make sure that this movie's going to have sequels, that it's going to fit into a universe, that it's going to do something, that it's going to be a huge money maker. That's the thing. It's not about inspiring people anymore. It's more about, we've got to make sure this makes big money.
Right, but if they had spent the time to write a good story and do less crazy theatrics and explosions and expensive filming on locations, then maybe they could charge less and maybe they'd be getting more people. That's the other thing is like you have all these people that are getting paid minimum wage, especially as like a young high schooler, and now movies cost $16 a pop. Who is going to spend $16 when they only make $7 an hour on a movie? Where back in the day, we could, I paid $6.25 in high school. I paid $5.25 in middle school.
Yeah,
you paid probably $3 or $4.
I remember paying $3.50 when I first started kind of going to the movies by myself.
And we talked about this with my dad. He used to pay a nickel for 2 movies.
Yeah.
And he's not old. He's not even 65 yet. I mean, it's
But
just freaking ridiculous.
That's you know, like the whole setup now for a movie theater is more expensive, and there's the more like, you don't have a squeaky ass metal seat and all this stuff. Like you
but
have.
That's separate though of the movies being made.
Yeah,
they had to do
movies,
that because nobody was going to the theater to pay for the movie because it was shitty old theaters.
Every movie now costs like multi-million dollars, where back in the 90s they were still being able to, you could crank out a movie with a good story for like $10 million. And that was a decent budget movie with a star. That was essentially, you were paying for the star.
It always surprises me when you tell me about a movie that's recently done and it's like on a shoestring budget, like $100,000. I'm like, what? And then it's some crazy underground type hit.
Well, and that's happening less and less and less, though. If anything, that's happening. Like Blumhouse is doing that really well in horror. Mm-hmm. They're making their movies for like these like $5 or $6 million movies in the horror genre, and then they're bringing in like $700 million or $70 million. You know, they're getting a huge return. But like these Marvel movies, as much money as they're making, most of that money goes back into paying off what they've spent on the production and the marketing for the movie.
Right.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
And it seems foolish, because when you make Batman in 1989 for $89 million, like, why can't you make movies of that quality now?
But in 1989, was $89 million considered a lot?
No, it was a lot. Yeah. So I mean, it's all relative, and you know, it's not I think that it's probably more the studios are getting rid of the good storytelling parts of a script. You know, I know there's good scriptwriters out there that still care about the art of the story and want to have their story told. And like, I just, you know, it just happened with Solo. You know, they were trying to do something different and they got fired because Disney wanted it to be the cookie cutter thing that they wanted. And, you know, and I don't know what those guys were making, but that was a case of like where writers and directors had a different idea going into the movie, and then the studio squashed whatever independence that thing had. And I think that a lot of scripts are probably coming out like that, where they have the heart and the character development, but then they go through the studio process, and the studio is like, no, we need to make sure the explosions and that the Transformers happen. But we don't want to worry about all this like character stuff. And that's what they don't get, is that's
what the fans want.
The explosions and the lasers and the superheroes are what's going to pull you into the theater. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a decent story, then
the word of mouth won't be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that the Marvel movies are doing, right? That the DC movies weren't doing with, like, say, a Batman versus Superman, where there was just like no story in there. Yeah. It was just like superficial
cool visuals. But
it was super cool visuals. Like the fight scene in that movie, like
just
if I just saw that,
the uniforms, the outfits,
exactly,
the
like all the stuff, all the right things were there, but there was no story, and that was one of the big problems. And that's what they found out with Wonder Woman, where they had enough time because it was just one hero. And they were able to tell her story.
And Aquaman was the same way.
Aquaman was the same way. Like, if you give the time to be able to, like, tell the story of the characters, then you're going to have a hit on your hands. But when you try to go in there and just do... And they did the same thing with Justice League, too. It was all style and all, like, you can see the preview and see all the cool costumes and see those people doing Justice League stuff. And you're going to be like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll go see that. But the reason it sucked is because there was no story there along with all the spectacle. And with Avengers... that was all spectacle, but they all had their original movies. Yeah. You already had their backstories and their stories, so that when you got to Avengers, you're like, okay, let's just see these dudes blow shit up.
See, it goes back to the idea of you do it right the first time or don't do it at all, because it's just not worth it. You're not going to create anything worth talking about if you just cut corners. But anyway, with Jerry Maguire, I think that I wish that movies were still made like that. And, you know, going back and watching it again, you know, I felt two things. One, it was like frustrated by just the sheer ridiculousness of that character, because for me, I would never be around somebody that behaved that way. And I would not tolerate that type of behavior. And then
wait, be more specific. Who are you talking about?
The main character that Tom Cruise played, he was just so like almost hypocritical, because he had this huge, lofty idea of how great the world could be, and so happy-go-lucky personality when he decided, hey, I want to make a change and I don't want to be this money-grubbing bastard anymore. But then he turned around and he just couldn't figure that shit out, and he kept hurting people along the way. He made, the very beginning, he makes this, has this epiphany, right? That he wants to be a better person, and that he wants to do better quality work for less money and have less clients and be more focused on connecting with people and taking care of them and creating that humanistic relationship between them. But then he immediately turns around can't figure it out.
Like the second he goes downstairs to the lobby, he like realizes, he was like, oh, I fucked up. Like, I shouldn't have said any of that stuff. He tries to get back on the elevator. And then when he gets like, everybody gives him the applause. Yeah. Then it, like, puffs up that ego again, and you just see it, like, build up, and he's just like, yeah, like, all right. And then, but then when he goes to the restaurant, and, a great part by Jay Moore, playing like the sleazy.
Totally hated him from that, which is exactly what they wanted you to do.
Exactly. You're supposed to hate his character, and, like, you hate him so much. And, but he goes to the restaurant and he gets fired. And that was one of the things, like, no matter what you say about Tom Cruise, that dude can play so much on his face. Mm-hmm. And that scene where he says, you're fired. And you see, like, he was thinking about 20 other things about his day when he got to that lunch. And then you see him, like, realize it. Then you see him have feelings about it. Mm-hmm. And then, like, and
then he's trying to contain the feelings all in his face.
Yes. And when they cut to the glass of water sitting on the table, and you can hear the ice moving in the water, and you, like, that was Cameron Crowe, just genius. Like, you're like, he is
crackling up. He's about to crack.
Like, yeah. And all that is going on, and he does that by cutting away to the fucking glass of water. That's a genius directing move, no matter what. And that's him, understanding his own writing. He's directing his own writing.
Right.
So that's one of the advantages of doing that. But where another director might not have been able to, like, see that much into the script. Only the greats can do that, is basically what I'm saying. Mm. But yeah, and then Cruise plays it out so good on his face. And then you see the real him again, where he's just like, you know what? No, fuck that. I'm over all that stuff I said. I want all my clients. I want yours. Like, all the greed just comes back in, and it's all about ego again. It's more that he got fired than he couldn't go out and do it on his own. It's all the pride and ego of him being fired that upsets him.
So my problem with that arc in the storyline mm-hmm. is that, for me, I can't imagine having anybody experience that huge epiphany where he was so dead inside, and he was so sick with his life, and he just wanted out of it so bad. And then for him to immediately flip-flop to that just goes to show that the original intent was superficial. Right. So what was the point of the story at that point?
That's the thing, though, is that in real life, we're all not perfect on the inside. And Cameron Crowe is writing a character who's not perfect. And the thing is that it was a fleeting moment, because the only reason he had the epiphany to begin with is because that little kid's dad got hurt, and Tom Cruise didn't give a shit, and then the little kid flips him off and tells him he's a fucking asshole, and then that hurt his ego.
But it wasn't just that, because the 10 minutes prior to that, he kept saying as a voiceover of the scenes that were playing out, uh-huh. that, it wasn't... I think it was somewhat quoted, but he's like, at first it was real small and I didn't notice it, but then I started noticing it more. And he's not coming out and saying it, but he is saying he started to notice that the game, quote, air quote, the game was changing, and that he was becoming less and less enchanted by it and more disheartened by the money and the way they were playing. And he was thinking back to how his predecessor and his mentor had taught him, which was, put your heart into it. Right. And so I have a really, really hard time, and that was the part of the storyline that really just irritated me, was how can you be so 100% believing of this thing that you desperately want, which is to change, and then all of a sudden go flip back to just this little shit-eating asshole, I just don't get it.
I think that happens, though, a lot. in real life.
Among shitheads, sure. I know several that would do that.
Yeah.
But that's why the ending wasn't believable for me.
Right.
And maybe that's why I don't connect with the movie.
I agree with that too, but
I think the whole thing is bullshit.
Let's not get there yet, though. Like, let's get to there.
Okay.
So he goes back to his company and tries to call his clients, and then you see the him in everybody else, like the worst in people, like people that he'd been to their house for Christmas and had, started their careers, and then they all turned on him and went with the agency, which, like, it's every man for himself in a job like that. Like, I can't blame those people, for wanting to stay with them. If I was in the same situation, let's say like I was getting hired on as a writer or as a filmmaker or even a podcast guy, and then that like broke up, and do I stay with the big company or do I stay with the guy that like signed me to begin with and gave me my big shot?
When you haven't built a relationship, they'd go with the company. But had he done it right in the first place, like he was taught by his predecessor,
right,
and built relationships, then there would have been loyalty. There's no loyalty anywhere in anything these days because nobody puts their heart in it. Right.
It's hard to build real relationships now because we don't have to meet people. We can deal with people almost exclusively over email or text instead of having to call and talk to somebody, get to know people, So that kind of makes sense. But then, and that's the reason why Ron Tisdale, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, stays with him, is because he was good to his wife. And that's why he's like, my wife likes you, and so I will stay with you. And that's the reason why he does it. And then...
Yeah, but there was a reason underneath that. And it was none of the other agents were going to put up with the shit. He was just as desperate to have an agent accept him as Tom Cruise playing the agent was to get a client. Right.
And I haven't brought that up yet, but this movie is about these three broken people. Tom Cruise is a broken person and he needs help. And Rene Zellweger is also broken. Like, she's lost her husband and she has this great little kid, but she's like she's supposed to be 26 in the movie.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise's character is 35.
Yeah,
10 years difference.
That was no way, but I don't know how old he was when he did that, but it seemed like there was an age difference there.
Yeah, it did.
But she was feeling like
super needy and clingy.
She was, and I know a lot of women like that too, especially women who have a child. Sometimes,
well,
I
think it's fair. I think nowadays it's fair to say that shoe fits both sexes. Men want security too. Women want security. But women are also more empowered now, so they don't necessarily need it. Even you get a lot of single moms or a lot of single dads that say, you know what, I'm just going to focus on my kids and myself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's changed a little bit. But back in that movie, yes, that was exactly what was going on. And she couldn't do it on her own, which was why she was living with her sister.
Right. Which, that makes sense too. I mean, just financially. Although they had a way nicer house between her and her sister. Yeah. She was like a secretary and her sister was like a nurse or something.
No, she's an accountant. Accountants make good money. She was an accountant.
Okay. Yeah, I guess she was. No, because she went on the trip with Jerry Maguire because that's where they meet in the airport. Right. And they have their meet cute. What did you think about the opening meet cute in the airport? Like, he finds her kid.
I mean, yeah, I like that. I thought the opening scene with her in the airplane and she was listening to him tell the story to some random chick on the airplane about how he proposed to his girl. Yeah. And she was completely enveloped in it and listening to it while she was eating like peanuts from the airplane stewardess.
Yeah, and he's in first class.
Like it's a soap opera. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's in first class and she's in coach, and she says...
she like melts to the ground trying to listen to his story, and she just... God, she looks so desperate in it. It's almost disgusting.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely like pre-Me Too movement. Well, it's just her longing for like, oh my gosh, like what I wouldn't do for a man like that, I mean, she kind of was a damsel in distress, even though she was The rest of the time, she's a strong single mom, but that opening scene, and perhaps that's just a moment of weakness, but it did make her seem like not strong. And then the first time they show her when they meet, she's lost her kid. Like, she doesn't have her shit together, you know? But you know from being a parent. Yeah, from being a parent.
It takes a split second.
Yeah, it takes a split second for your kid to be gone, you know? And you're like, oh no.
Hiding between the clothes.
Yeah, in the middle of the clothes rack, exactly. I don't know. That whole scene is weird too. He pays her a lot of attention in that scene. Like, he seems honestly, but like, you have to look at the big picture. Like, is he paying her attention because there's an attraction? I don't really think so. I think he's paying attention because he honestly does at that moment want to be a better person.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Like, he's still in that, like, I want to be a better person mood.
That was post his breakdown.
Right.
And of course, then she complimented him on his memo, whatever it was called. His, what did he call it?
Well, she says, you know, I read your memo and it really touched me. And he's like,
again, ego and pride. He's like, oh, somebody likes me. And it's
he's like,
both
it was
were
a mission
insecure.
statement.
Yeah. But they were both insecure, broken people.
Right.
But he thought he was better than her, which is why he used her. He got married to her and he didn't love her.
Whoa, you keep jumping ahead too far.
Sorry.
We're not even there yet. We're just talking about these characters coming together. So let's talk about Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character. He's the football player and he stays with Jerry. But I think also because, like you said, he is an asshole and he doesn't play well with others, and other agents probably don't want to work with him. And he's looking for a big paycheck. It's the same thing. It's the money over matter, you know,
and not wanting to put in the work. But again, that was such a contradictory thing, because here's the Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, and they're trying to show him and his relationship with his wife as being something to hold up as just this amazing idea of what marriage and love should be, which they played it out really well. But when you are that way with a wife that's that supportive, how would he have turned around and flip-flopped and been a completely different person regarding what he needed to do for his career? So I just feel like there was too much juxtaposition between, each character had two sides to them.
Yeah.
And it was very, very clear. Each character had this greedy, money-grubbing person, like, issues side, and then something else that made them better and humanistic. And maybe that was part of the writing.
Right.
But that it was so starkly different, it was hard for me to believe.
Right.
But I know he had to do it so crazy different for each person, because people are stupid when they watch movies, and unless you hit them over the head with the concept or the theme or the topic you're trying to explain, they won't get it.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true, and we're digging into it, and you're just like, you're enlightening me right now, because I'm thinking, no, you're 100% right. Each one of them does have a completely different personality, almost split right down the center, but I didn't pick that up in 96. I didn't even pick up that they were broken in 96. I just thought, these are all good people that just need the help of each other, like just need their friends. That was the more positive, less cynical me thinking that, you know, and I think that probably more was what the director was going for than how, like, rigid and how we hate people now and everybody's in it for themselves.
I don't think so at all. I think that was the main point of the movie.
Yeah.
Was to show the contrasting sides. And you know what's interesting? It's 25 years later, and the movie still mimics society. It's exactly how we are.
I agree.
Which is disgusting that we cannot evolve.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is something that I noticed throughout the movie, and then I started thinking about other Tom Cruise performances. Tom Cruise likes to, like we always dog on, like, Johnny Depp and, like, Nicolas Cage for, like, just, like, going way over the top in an acting moment and then bringing it right down. Tom Cruise does that too. Like, when he goes, I'm not just gonna flip out, and he, like, does this crazy thing with his body, flails around. And he does the same thing in the restaurant scene on their first date. He's like, I was just but they always do it in a wide scene, so you're not close up, so you don't see him being, like, as crazy as he is, like, right in his face. So I noticed that was the thing.
It's because they know that if you can see his eyes, you'll see that he actually is crazy. Because it shows.
He is a wild, like, person who's been in Hollywood so long that I'm pretty sure he lives in Tom Cruise world, you know? Like, he just thinks that, like, he is the thing that he has created for himself on screen. And he probably doesn't look at, like, his real life is nothing like the persona that he, you know, that's the problem. That's where I have a hard time watching Tom Cruise movies now, because I just see the weirdo in him instead of being able to see the character that he's putting on screen.
Okay, fuckface. First, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face!
The only time I don't have a hard time watching him is in action films where he doesn't have to speak too much.
Well, even like, I love the Mission Impossible movies, but the whole time I'm thinking, like, this dude is 5'5", and he's a string bean, and he's, you know, 65 years old. That 65-year-olds only look like that when they have been remade. Like, his body has been remade because he eats fetuses in a secret temple underneath the Scientology lab.
And wasn't it you who opened this podcast with, Scientologists are not crazy. They don't do anything weird. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I should say.
It's not a crazy religion.
He allegedly...
They're just like Catholics.
Eats fetuses underneath a lab, underneath the Scientology Center, right? Allegedly.
Look, fuckstick, I'm incredibly busy, so why don't you get the hell out of here before I snap your dick off and jam it into your ass.
Another weird thing about Scientology is that now that I know all about how it's all together and stuff.
So you think?
His wife in this movie is John Travolta's wife in real life, Kelly Preston.
Man, I've never actually seen her in a movie that I can recall.
Really?
And she was knucking futz in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, she looked like her energy looked like it was gonna, like, fold from the inside out.
Yes.
Like, her skin was just gonna peel off and this demon was gonna come out.
If you ever want me to be with another woman for you, I would do it.
And that's how I see her in real life, too. Because she is what do you call that when a straight woman marries a gay dude, but, like, everybody knows it? Is it a Band-Aid? Well, she was chosen by the church to be John Travolta's wife,
right,
to cover up the fact that he's a homosexual.
Yeah.
And she is 100% she's lied to herself enough, I think, that she probably doesn't think that John Travolta's a homosexual, and that she has this, like, that they're this major power couple, you know, and she's okay with being in that position where she's like, I'm the head of this.
I think she probably knows.
Corporate family.
I think she does it. I think, honestly, she does it at this point because it's the status quo. It's how it's always been. And I would not want to cross the church at that point that they belong to, because they'd be probably murdered.
Well, yeah, like, the church does go after people that leave, like Katie Holmes and, Nicole Kidman, who all come out of being married to Tom Cruise and being like, you're not just married to Tom Cruise, you're married to Tom Cruise and a church. Yeah. You know, and it's the same thing with Travolta. Although I feel like he does a better job of, like, hiding it and not being, like, Tom Cruise is more of, like, the spokesman. But I've also heard that, like, Tom Cruise and John Travolta don't like each other because Travolta was supposed to be, the poster boy. And then when he started being more and more, like, they're like, oh, maybe he is gay. Then they were like, okay, we gotta find somebody else. And Tom Cruise kind of took over his spot as, like, the head guy. But anyway, I digress. We're getting far away from Jerry Maguire again.
Yeah. Kelly Preston.
Her character is, like you said, she's knuckin' futz, and she's almost like I imagine her being in real life. But there are also two members of the church. They know, like, Tom Cruise and Travolta know each other very well, and I'm sure, you know, he knows Kelly Preston very well. And, like, that, like, fucking scene where she's, like, riding him up against a bookcase and, like, you can see her boobies flopping around and stuff, like, that was pretty hardcore. And, like, how do you do that scene in a movie and then go to church on Sunday and be like, oh, hey, Kelly?
Because there's nothing about those three people's lives that is normal, other than the fact that they aren't normal.
Yeah, I just don't understand
that. That's the same for any sex scene in a movie where they're that, like, obviously intimate. How do you do that when you're married to someone else? Or how do you, it's porn. It might as well just be porn, because because imagine actually doing that. You would feel like you were cheating on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I
and
wouldn't
you
do
know
it.
damn well you would have a boner if Kelly Preston was riding you like that with her titties flopping around
And saying,
in your
never
face.
stop fucking me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You'd be hard as a rock regardless of whether, because
I was
it's
hard as a
chemical.
rock watching it.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. So, again, it's just that whole life is crazy, and there is nothing normal about it, so...
That's true. But he realizes, in the movie, not Tom Cruise, Jerry Maguire, sees the folly of that person and realizes that that's not what he wants in his life anymore.
Right, because she is she is the epitome of all of the things he hates about himself.
Right. And so he breaks up with her, and she beats the ever-loving shit out of him.
That was fabulous. Love watching a woman just knock the shit out of a guy. It's awesome.
But
I know all your listeners are probably saying, men can't say this shit.
Yeah, what if he broke up? What if she broke up with him and he punched her in the face and kicked her in the cunt? Like, not okay.
The reason it's okay for me to say that is because typically that doesn't happen. That's
right.
like saying, I wish unicorns were alive.
Yeah.
They're not, so it's not a big deal.
Well, I mean, I can say like, oh, what if it was on the other foot? But I mean, if that scene was different and Tom Cruise punched her and she fell on the floor, you'd be like, oh my God. Like, it would be so shocking. But when she does it to him, you're like, yeah, he deserved it.
No. I mean, honestly, I kind of wanted to kick her ass because she was, like I said, crazy.
Yeah, she was
And she deserved to get her ass beat because she was fucking nuts. And she was evil. She was an angry, evil person.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to tell her, like, hey, like, we're just different people. And then for her to just go off the rails and slug him in the face with a freaking 4-carat diamond?
Yeah.
No. But I can also tell you that little mark that was left on him from that punch would not have been that little.
His cute little scar above his eye
little
that he
scar,
could just cover with sunglasses.
And
look
did you
even
notice
cooler.
it was on the opposite side of his face that he got punched on? She punched him on his left cheek, and the scar was, the bloody black eye was on the right temple.
So, but the first thing he does, they talk about, so the big thing for him is that he can't be alone.
Right.
And those women in his little video, his bachelor video, call him out on that and say that, like, oh, Jerry can't be alone.
Which is interesting because Rene Zellweger's character has the same problem.
She has a problem being alone, too. But he really can't be alone. He gets off that flight and goes straight to her house.
Yeah, drunk.
And then Me Too movement assaults her.
Yeah.
He grabs her.
Grabby.
I couldn't believe it. Like, he goes in for the
grab.
kiss, but then, he full on, like, titty grabs her.
Yeah. I felt watching that scene like I was assaulted because I was really upset by that.
And she just allows it to be okay. She even kind of makes a joke out of it.
She leaned back. She was disgusted.
She was, but at the same time, then, like, afterwards, he's like, I'm sorry about the hand. And she's like, oh, I may not sue. Like, she should have been like, if you do it again, I will sue.
Because she loved him. Because really, her panties were wet when they were kissing.
That's the thing. She already was, like, half out, one leg out of her panties. Mm-hmm. And it was because she was telling her sister about it. Now, her sister, played by Bonnie Hunt, I think, is the most real and best character.
I love her character
in that whole
movie.
Story.
I love any character she plays, though. She's she's an underrated actress. I love her.
And I think, like, that, whenever I see a good sister relationship, it reminds me of you and your sister, because you guys are kind of, like, catty with each other like that, and more real than manners should allow,
It's because there's an underlying love.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that
sisters love
both
each
of you,
other.
you can say horrible things to each other, but at the end of the day, you know that, like, you're doing it because out of love, not because, like, you're mad or you hate that person.
Yeah.
And that you have, like,
and not
best
all
interests
sibling
in mind.
relationships are like that, as you can attest.
Yes.
But yeah, no, they're like, I would literally jump in front of a bullet for my sister for sure. But and that relationship in that movie, it was between the actresses was so believable. And if anything in that movie made me feel something, it was, I understood the love between the two sisters, and me being the oldest sister, I really related to the older sister in the show, and her trying to, carefully steer her younger sister through this very interesting situation that was unfolding around them. So, Yeah.
Well, and then there was the relationship between Rene Zellweger and the little kid, Jonathan Lipnitsky.
Oh, that was so cute.
Which he is the cutest little dude in the entire freaking world. And everybody fell in love with him. But you can really see in those scenes with them, they're very tender with each other. Like,
yeah. When they put their foreheads together and their noses, the tips of their noses touch, and they're just best buds. They're so cute. Makes me miss my little guy.
Oh, I know. They made me miss Logan through the whole. Every time
can we go wake Logan up? I just need a little hug.
Yeah, when he's like, I gotta go. My mom's coming. I gotta go to bed. I gotta go.
You were thinking like that's exactly what Logan would do.
Yep.
Yeah, just tender, sweet little kids.
Yeah, but that little kid was so cute. Grew up to be not have a career after that because he didn't stay cute forever.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, I bet him and...
should look up what he's doing.
I'm gonna look it up because I want to see if him and Rene Zellweger, like, still have a relationship.
Like, friend, yeah.
There's somebody else I just heard about that, like... Oh, Sigourney Weaver and Newt are still friends from Alien.
Newt.
The little girl that was in Alien.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I don't remember the
Oh, we should watch it, except for, like, we'll pop it in, and then 5 minutes in, you're gonna be like, oh, I've seen this movie.
I have seen all the Alien movies. I just don't remember Newt. But that's interesting. So they're still friends, huh?
Yeah, like they're still...
Like mentor?
Yeah, like they're still like mother-daughter kind of thing. Oh, and Catherine O'Hara and Macaulay Culkin are like that too still.
Really?
Yeah, he calls her up and he's like, hey, Mom. Like,
aww.
Yeah, like they're still friends after all these years.
That's sweet.
He's kind of weird though. I just heard him on a podcast like a couple of weeks ago with the Michael Rosenbaum podcast. Mm-hmm. He still talks like he's a little kid.
Can you blame him? I mean, he was raised in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Nobody who is raised in Hollywood is going to come out normal.
He was best friends with Michael Jackson. We all know how that goes. And then he is in a rock band right now that they sing only about cheese pizza.
Okay. I mean, if you really love pizza, okay, but...
I know, but like that sounds like something a 12-year-old would do. You know, like, I'm in a band and we just sing about cheese pizza. Or I have a podcast and it's about cheese pizza.
Or I have a podcast and I only talk about movies.
Shut up! Talk about music and media sometimes.
Sometimes. So yeah, so we're getting through. We need to talk a little bit more about Cuba Gooding Jr., I think.
Yeah.
Because his character, I haven't seen too many movies with him in it, especially not as of late. But I really loved his character in this movie.
He was a rising... Yeah, I mean, he just was like dripping charisma in this movie.
He was funny. He was charming. He was sweet. He was sincere. And even though, like, in the movie, he was playing a character that was supposed to be, like, kind of cocky and money-grubbing, too. But that was the fake side of him.
Yeah.
He was trying to fit into that world. Because he knew all he wanted to do was play ball. But when it came down to it, the only thing that was important to him and important to his family was their family and their love.
When Jerry calls him on that at the scene when they get in their little argument, where he says, he's like, in your life, you're all heart. But on the field, you're just in your head. You're thinking about how you got screwed and how you didn't get what you wanted, you know? And he's like, you need to play with your heart. And then he's like, I'm all heart, motherfucker.
But then once they had that kind of come to Jesus type of reckoning with each other, that's when things changed.
Yeah.
Because they at that time, that was when their friendship was solidified through their struggle and their hardships, and they finally started to actually care about each other and care about what they were doing. And that was that right there, that argument between the two characters, when they both kind of say, you know what, we're friends. We can tell it like it is now, right? And then they start at it, and that's what they needed to do. That's both what they needed to hear the whole time. And had they just gotten out of their own ways and actually said it like it was at the beginning, they wouldn't have gone through all that strife and struggle.
Right. Well, and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character is like the heart of the movie.
Is it Cuba?
Cuba.
I thought it was Cuba.
Cuba. Well, it could be Cuba or
Cuba.
I've always heard it Cuba.
It's probably Cuba.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
So I heard that Cuba Gooding Sr. went and met Tom Cruise on the set and gave him a big hug and then said, "So are you gay or what?"
What?
Yeah. And Cuba Gooding Jr. was like, "Never again, man. I'm never taking you to a set again." Yeah.
I don't get that vibe from Tom Cruise. At least at the younger age.
Yeah, I don't get it from Tom Cruise, but I do from John Travolta. Like, I see it.
Sure.
And I've seen, like, photos of him, like, kissing men behind bushes and stuff. But, I don't get that vibe from Tom Cruise, though.
It's weird that he would say that. But anyway, so
I digress.
Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character is between him, the little kid, and the sister. Those were my 3 favorite characters.
Right. Well, and, you know, just Cuba Gooding as an actor, like, I've always thought he was a great actor. I've always liked his movies. His performance in The People vs. O.J. Simpson, which you didn't watch because it's too upsetting.
I saw parts of it.
Was just phenomenal. Like, the way that he, you know, the emotion that he can get to.
Is he playing in anything recently? Is he still acting?
The star has fallen, but when he does stuff, it's really good. It's just that he hasn't... Like, right after Jerry Maguire, he did a lot of good stuff, and he was doing good stuff up until then. But then he just didn't, like, he's a Denzel quality star, but he's not getting Denzel quality roles.
And that might be by choice. Maybe he is focusing on family.
I don't think it's by choice. He was in American Horror Story recently. He was in
Which one?
He was in Coven. Not Coven. The one that was like a reality show. Where it was like showing the real people, and then he was playing a character of the real person. He was an actor.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
But he was great on that, too.
That was a weird one. What was that? I don't know. The American Horror Story, you could do an entire podcast on that series.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Only 2 of them were 2 that I hated, and the rest of them, I think there's 7. The other 5 I liked.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. And that was a small role, too, for him.
Yeah. I think Cuba got an Academy Award for his performance in Jerry Maguire.
Did he?
Oh, yeah, it won for Best Actor. Okay, yeah. He won Best Actor for Best Supporting Actor. Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Oscar that year.
Best Supporting Actor, okay.
Yeah. It was a nominee for Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Actor for Tom Cruise. It was nominated for Best Writer. And he was up against some pretty serious people that year. He was up against Armand Mueller-Stahl for Shine, Edward Norton in Primal Fear, which was a huge performance. James Woods in Ghost of Mississippi, and William H. Macy in Fargo. So, those were he had some serious competition that year. So at the moment when they have their fight at the bus, Tom Cruise calls him out on his bullshit, but he also calls Tom Cruise out because Tom Cruise has gotten married to Rene Zellweger, and he did it for all the wrong reasons. He did it because he loved her son. He did it because their business was failing and he felt guilty. And he did it because they had no more money and she could only stay if they moved in together.
So he had kind of like that white knight syndrome.
It was all guilt. Like, he's guilt driven through this entire movie. Mm-hmm. And then deep down, it's not the right thing, you know, and Cuba Gooding Jr. knows it first off because he saw it in the wedding video, where they showed that Jerry Maguire has this little tick or his tell where he rubs between his eyes when
he's stressed out because he doesn't want to do something.
Whenever he's stressed out or doesn't know what to do, he does that thing where he like starts rubbing between his eyes. And I really liked that. And Cuba Gooding Jr. sees him do it in the video.
And so does Rene
Zellweger sees him do it too. Yeah. And he gives
stands
away.
up and tries to comfort her.
Yeah. And I think she knows through the whole thing. I don't think she's ever fooled that she knows that he doesn't want to be there with all of his heart.
So that being said, what was a redeeming character strength for her as a female was that she finally decides, I fucked up, I did it for the wrong reason, I allowed it to continue even though I know he didn't love me, and she pieces out, and she's like, you know what, we're done. And that's that moment where she got that strength back in herself and realized she could continue on living her life without him and didn't need him as a man to help her get through her life. So I like that.
One of the things, and this kind of is going back to something that we missed, was that when they have their first date, and it's awkward and everything, but you know, and he has to talk to the babysitter, and the babysitter's like, she's a good girl. Like, you can see that the babysitter is kind of in love with Rene Zellweger too.
For sure, yeah. But did you also notice the very first date, he shows up in like a button-up, almost denim shirt and blue jeans, and she's like dressed to the nines, and that is a like foreshadowing of how she sees their relationship versus how he sees their relationship.
Exactly. Also, they go to dinner, and he just talks about himself the entire time.
And work.
Yes. And then, but there's that great scene where she goes to the bathroom, and the mariachis come back and start singing, and you see how uncomfortable he is in his own skin, and also he's alone. And this horrible, uncomfortable thing is happening to him. And he is in like the worst moment of his life, and she sees it and is like, oh, like she sees it as cute and sweet. And she doesn't realize that. I think that's something that's very human, where things that you see in another person, like in your partner, especially like in the beginning of a relationship, is like, I
feel like this is a deeper pull for you. What are you trying to tell me?
No, I'm just saying, like, and I do think this about myself, is that things that are not enduring and sweet, things that are actually negative about me, or that are like problems in my life, like, especially I think women look at me and think, oh, that's cute and funny. And then they get to know me, and I tell everybody right off the bat, I'm like, this is not going to be cute in 3 months.
You've been saying that for 8 years, and I still think most of it's cute.
You still think some of this is cute, and that's the thing, is that like that's why we're married, is because you are satisfied. You were satisfied by my weird. It didn't chase you away. But certainly it has other women, where I was like, this is all cute now, but it won't be cute in a few months. Also,
just
though,
FYI to the listeners who are wondering if they have a good partner out there, if your partner can see you're crazy and sticks with you, that's a good one. Stick with it.
It's 100% true. Like me and Lauren always argue about the timeline of the beginning of our relationship, but it was early in our relationship where she saw me have an awful panic attack, and I really wish she would have left while I was going through this panic attack, because I just wanted to like throw up in diarrhea by myself, but she wouldn't leave. And she sat there with me, and she got me through it. And now the reason she can stay with me is because I'm highly medicated now, which makes me much more tolerable. But yeah, I mean, that was something that I always thought was like, if she has seen me at my worst, so she deserves me at my best.
That's right. And I deserve your best, so start doing it.
You get the best 15% I can muster on a daily basis.
Is that 15 minutes or 15%?
My 15 minutes of just goldenness is the 15% that you get every day.
I think you're being hard on yourself. There's a lot more than that.
Aww. That's why you podcast with your wife, because she'll say nice things about you. On the record. Now next time she's calling me a motherfucker, I can pull this out and be like, remember when you said this?
Yep.
Lies.
All lies.
It's all lies. So, Rene Zellweger, she lets him off the hook. She tells him that, that's pretty big for, for a person to be able to admit when they're that wrong. When they've pulled somebody into a marriage and they're willing to admit that. I think that happened too early in their relationship where she admitted that. That would have been like 4 years down the road when they were ready to like murder each other and say that they were sleepwalking.
No, because I think because it was not right from the get-go. She knew. There was a flag at every turn, she knew. And the timeline on this movie is a little weird. It doesn't...
Well, it's hard to tell how
much time has passed. It doesn't make sense, really. I mean, I think it was just because of the amount of time that they were taking up to actually film each scene, but that was a little frustrating. The
marker is supposed to be Cuba Gooding Jr.'s wife's pregnancy. And maybe
she was pregnant throughout the whole movie.
I know, and that's weird. The thing, is that sometimes she seemed bigger than in other scenes.
And then sometimes she had short hair, and then sometimes she had long hair. So maybe that was continuity errors. I don't know.
I don't know if it was, but I think that was supposed to be what took us like through time.
But only maybe like 8 months.
And then I think if you know how football works, like you might get a better time scene, because like they were talking about like he was getting ready to start his last season on his contract and all this stuff. And how long is between a football season?
1 year.
You don't know.
Well, like there's each season is each year. You have a season a year.
Yeah, but I know. But there's a certain amount of time between each year. From like Super Bowl is in like January, I think. February. No. It's not November.
We don't know.
We don't know.
During Thanksgiving.
No, we don't.
Yes.
There's football on Thanksgiving.
And then Super Bowl's in December.
No.
I don't know. I think
Christmas
that's
is in
the start of
December.
the
You don't
season.
know.
You need to edit all
No.
We're showing how retarded we are. When
No, you are retarded. I was good for a minute.
Yeah, only because you didn't admit to
Look
it.
what you did. All right, so she lets him off the hook. So he's got his out. His player does really good. Cuba falls on his head and knocks himself unconscious, and then has that moment where he comes out of it. That was a weird scene for me. I mean, it was a great scene. I remember it being a powerful scene when I first saw it, but like looking at it now, I'm just like, I don't know if that's the moment where everybody would have been like, yeah, he's a good dude. Like, I love that guy. Like, if
it wasn't about him. It was that here is somebody you can root for. And all of a sudden it was a humanistic experience that the entire stadium experienced together.
Right.
Was, oh my God, is this person gonna be okay? And right then and there, it was something that connected everybody. And then to be happy for somebody who isn't gonna be dead all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's what made them come together, and all of a sudden his star rose.
Right. I don't know if that would do it in real life, like for a person to turn their image around, and for even the coach is like, Jerry Maguire's like rubbing his fingers together, like, you better come up with some money now, and he's like, I know, like, and he goes from 1.7 for a 4-year contract to $11 million.
But that was when he started playing with his heart. That whole game, he was kicking ass. He was doing crazy plays, reaching for the ball.
Which, if they wanted us to really believe that, he should have been on a different team than the Arizona Cardinals. Because they've never had a player like that.
It's weird to be an Arizonan and see that.
Yeah.
See the Cardinal Stadium from the 90s when I was here in an age where I knew what it was. And I'm like, wow, weird. Yeah.
Well, it was the Sun Devil Stadium. The Cardinal Stadium hadn't even been built yet.
Right.
But yeah, whenever they, like, from being in Arizona, and then like whenever a movie's in Arizona, it always freaks me out because this seems like such a planet away from the rest of the United States. Like, Arizona just seems so far removed.
Bizarre. It's a weird place to live.
But I remember back in 96, like we were in a time then when like you didn't see, there were no superhero crossovers. Like, even in the comic books, there weren't crossovers. And whenever there was a football movie, like Necessary Roughness or The Replacements or any of those movies,
always like Ohio or Midwest.
Well, it was always a
American.
fake team. It was never like an NFL team.
Right.
So it was weird for that movie to actually be able to score an NFL team and then to show like Monday Night Football and stuff.
Did they have to give them money for using Cardinals in the movie, or was it free publicity for the team?
No, they definitely had to like pay to use stuff. Mm-hmm. I know that there was a lawsuit because of, they talked shit about Reebok and they didn't get Reebok's permission. He's like, he doesn't even talk shit about him. He's just like, Reebok ain't giving me any love. Yeah. And Reebok was super fucking pissed about that. So,
they kind of talk shit. Cause he said it like 3 times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
That he wasn't, that Reebok just was shit or whatever.
Yeah.
It kind of led to that.
Yeah. But no, it was surprising to have this movie like backed by the NFL, but it added a whole lot of believability to it too. I think if they would have tried to make it and it wasn't the NFL, or if it was some like under category, the gravitas of the whole thing would be thrown off. It wouldn't be as good.
You know what was a really weird scene, but really real scene? Was the scene at that end where he's having these star moments and he gets hit and he's knocked out because he hit his neck hard. And it cuts to the family in Arizona watching him play football. Mm-hmm. And the whole family is in the living room on this like 2-person couch and everybody's standing around and is just freaking out and they're watching the game together. And for that moment when I'm watching that scene, I could relate to that because any American has been in a room watching some sporting event, crowded in and rooting, and it's just crazy, the adrenaline that's in there and the excitement or the scared adrenaline from worrying about somebody that's hurt. Yeah. It's crazy.
It was weird. My dad used to order the Mike Tyson fights all the time, and that's how it was. Like, people standing up behind the couch. Mm-hmm. There were so many people packed in, and everybody's watching like the event. But that was kind of weird. His whole family was watching it in their living room, but it was in Arizona.
Yeah, and they weren't in the stadium.
Why weren't they in the stadium? Yeah. But yeah, that is weird. So at the end of the movie, Jerry gets what he's wanted. Ron Tidwell gets what he wanted. And then he goes,
and Rene Zellweger
he
gets
goes
what she
home.
wants.
That's the thing that I want to talk to you about. So this scene is the scene that more than anything has been made fun of because you complete me. And, so you think of mini-me being like, I love you.
Yeah.
You complete me. And then like the Lego Batman, where Lego Batman is watching that scene and he starts laughing his ass off because he thinks it's the funniest scene he's ever seen. So now it's hard to watch that scene and see it like where you're like, aww. But back then it was getting everybody's feels. I remember there was not a dry eye in the theater back in old 96. But has he changed? Is he doing it for the right reasons, or is he doing it because it's something that he failed at and now he's got to fix it?
I think it's both. I think he realizes he does care for her, and I think he's going into it in a different way. I think he realizes he is in love with her, and it's real love. But I also
don't know if he's even capable of love. He seems like he's a sociopath.
He's just not. He doesn't have a lot of depth to him. He was as good in that moment as he was ever going to be. And she accepted it.
Or was he lying to himself?
No.
Because he knew, he even says it, he's like, they send me into the living room because I'm the best in the living room. He was the guy they'd send to be face to face with the athletes because that's where he would kill it. And that's exactly what he does. He says all the right things to her in front of all those other people. So he was like, he made a big scene out of it because everything had to be a big scene for him. And then he tells her exactly what she wants to hear to get him back, and she, gives the line that, you had me at hello. You had me at hello.
So when she said that, I was sitting there thinking, when the fuck did he say hello?
He walked in the door and he says hello.
He doesn't say the word hello.
He does. He says hello to the ladies, not to her.
Oh.
He says, hello, I'm looking for my wife. To the lady that are all yelling and stuff.
Right, all the divorcees.
Right.
Having their women's group.
So I give it to him. He went into like a super sketchy situation. I walked into a triage full of ladies and asked a girl out one time. So I know what it's like to walk behind enemy lines and face the enemy. And she did not say, you had me at hello. She turned me down. And then I actually said, I was like, that was really embarrassing. So I'm going to see you later. All you ladies can talk about me as soon as I leave the room. And I'll see you guys later. It was like one of the worst moments of my life. But I played it cool. When I got out of there, I realized like my shirt was drenched in sweat because I was so nervous and upset about what I just did. But that's like a metaphor for my whole life. Jerry, he pulls it out in the end and he succeeds.
Well,
but it just goes to show. She says by saying that's a super cute line, super well written. I wish I could write anything that good ever. When she says you had me at hello.
Your screenplays are amazing.
But I've never had that. I've never been able to write that moment. The you had me at hello moment.
Not many people do.
No, I know. I agree.
But that doesn't make your screenplays any less amazing.
It's set up for the greats. But if you really look at the scene and you look at it's the scene to the end of this movie and all of their motivations up to this point, she's basically saying, all you had to do was walk in the door and I would take you back.
Well, because she always loved him. And it comes down to this.
But what changed that he just had to come back? But she's not even asking for him to change.
She knows that when he left, he understood she didn't want him to come back unless he had figured his shit out. And by coming back, she assumed that he had made that choice and that he was going to stick it out for the long haul and be all in. That's why she said, you had me at hello, was because just the fact that he came back, if you love something and they come back, or, you let them go, and if they come back, then it's meant to be. And that was the whole theory.
That's bullshit in real life, because a cat or a dog piss all the way across the neighborhood when you take them for a walk so they can find their way back.
We're talking about people, not animals.
Jerry might have pissed all the way down the street.
Well, anyway, regardless, do I believe that scene? No, I don't.
Do you think in the context of this story that he changed?
No.
Or do you think that he's just saying what he needs to say?
I don't think people that are that far gone and that self-absorbed and that money-grubbing are ever capable of that kind of change. You can't go from negative 99 to 99. You just can't.
Well, they do have like $2 million now because he gets 4% of the $11 million contract. I don't know what the math on that is, but they're millionaires now.
It doesn't matter.
And at the end, they're walking through the park.
Because all that says is it's okay because money is the Band-Aid. And that's bullshit. Because it's still superficial.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
so
that's
no,
where,
I don't believe it. That's why I didn't like the ending.
I think Jerry Maguire, too. Jerry's still an asshole, and they're split up. They've had a couple more kids. And so Jonathan Lipnitsky has brothers and sisters. And he told them, he was like, if you want to be accepted, you just tell people that the human brain weighs 8 pounds and they think you're the cutest fucker in the world. And then he just told his brother and sister that, and that's how they've gotten through life. And he's a major league pitcher now because they found out that he's got a good arm. And Jerry represented him and got him into the business too early. And now he's addicted to painkillers and he lives in a double wide by himself.
That scene at the very end, the last scene before they close out the movie, is Jerry Maguire and Rene Zellweger's character swinging their little kid between the two of them as they are walking. And then he picks up the ball, he throws the baseball back into the field of the players and says, whoa, and you instantly see
the green,
where his eye goes
yeah.
and where his brain goes, and it's straight back to the money. It's how do I exploit this kid
right
to make money. So no, does he change? Absolutely not. He doesn't change. It's still the same character that you started out watching, and that's why I didn't fall in love with the movie, because it's completely bullshit. Complete bullshit. I would have said fuck you to that and walked away. But I am a no bullshit kind of person, so I can't handle it. That movie frustrates the hell out of me because it's so far removed from how I behave.
Right.
So I just want to scream at her and just hit her upside the head and be like, "You stupid whore!" No, I'm kidding. But still, it frustrates me.
So there you have it, folks. Jerry Maguire is a piece of horse shit.
Yeah.
Fuck that movie.
What, have you changed your mind? Is it no longer your favorite love story?
Nope, I hate it now. I used to say that if you don't like Jerry Maguire, that your heart is made of shit. But you know what? I have a shitty heart. And I want to thank my wife, Lauren, for shitting on my heart. And your heart's made of shit. Together, we're just two shit hearts.
No, that's not true. I'm a realist.
You're right.
I am a realist.
Our love will last forever. Because it has wings.
That's a good Red Bull.
All right, now's the time in our show where we do the most important part. Fuck, marry, kill, fight.
I like how you emphasize the fuck.
Tell me who you'd fuck, marry, and kill. This game is the definition of thrill. You have to pick, you have to choose. If you don't, you will lose. Tell me who you'd fuck, marry, and kill. Who you'd fuck, marry, and kill.
Okay. Fuck, marry, kill. Jerry Maguire, Tom Cruise's character. Rod Tidwell, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character. Dorothy Boyd, Rene Zellweger's character.
Who names somebody Dorothy in this day and age? That's
it's an old lady name.
Yeah,
it's an old lady name. Okay, and then Avery Bishop, which is the Kelly Preston character.
I would fuck Cuba Gooding Jr. because he was the only redeeming character out of those four.
And you see his butt cheeks in the room,
Yeah.
and you know that he air dries.
He has got smooth chocolate skin that's flawless. So yeah. He's the only one who you see his body and he's ripped, and I'm like, yeah. So yes, I absolutely would.
You see Tom Cruise's body too, and he's super ripped.
Yeah, except for he's 5'4" and he's this little pasty. No, it's not gonna work. Okay, so
it has nothing to do with dong.
Fuck, marry, kill. What?
It has nothing to do with dong size.
No, because you don't see his dong.
You know it.
No. I think that's a misnomer. Not all black men have big dongs.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
It's a baby's apple or a baby's arm holding an apple for sure.
Anyway, so fuck Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Can I marry him, too?
No.
Because, again, he's the only redeeming character.
Yeah, you can't double up. That's the whole point of this game, is that you have to make real choices about life.
You have one good and 3 shitty. All right, so marry Dorothy, what's her name?
Dorothy Boyd.
So Rene Zellweger, because she is...
You guys would make a cute lesbian couple.
Oh, thanks. This is so sweet. Oh my gosh, this just sounded like Miranda for a minute. This is so sweet. So I marry her because she just wants to love and love, like, she wants to be loved and loved. So she would make a good wife.
I agree.
Yeah.
But you have really put yourself into a corner now with these next two.
No, I would probably have to, God, it would be, you know what? Yeah, okay. So I would, it is hard. Okay, so what's the girl's name again? That
Avery.
plays Avery, the redhead. Oh, I love that name too, but that's like a crazy bitch name too.
Yeah.
And she's a crazy bitch.
I've never met an Avery that wasn't a crazy bitch.
Yeah. Okay, so fight and kill between Avery and Jerry Maguire. I would fight Jerry Maguire.
Good choice, because you know he's a pussy. He goes down with one hit.
Well, I would never shy away from a good fight. That's not why I'd fight him. So I would fight him because I could just really beat his ass and he'd walk away with his tail between his legs and I'd feel satisfied by that and just done with it. And then it's out of my system. I don't feel angry after I've beat his ass, But with Avery, I would want to beat her ass and then I'd want to continue to beat her ass. So if I kill her, then it's just done and I have that satisfaction of squeezing every last drop of life out of her body.
Oh my God.
But yeah, she was a crazy bitch and I would want to kill her for sure. Yeah, so that's it.
I just looked up Jonathan Lipnitsky. Look at him. He turned into a straight up stud.
Damn! Alright, so if I could fuck somebody now...
Yeah, he grew up to be a looker.
he's not he's pretty good looking. Yeah.
He's devilishly handsome.
But it's probably that picture. We need to see other pictures of him. Ooh. Oh. Hey. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Dude,
if you don't know what he looks like now, you should definitely Google him.
Yeah, he got studly.
Some black and white photos of him. He looks like James Dean. All right. Yeah. Good for him. That's awesome.
This movie also featured Jerry O'Connell, the little fat kid from Stand By Me, and he is ripped as shit.
When?
He was Kush.
Who's Kush?
The football player that Jerry was trying to get.
Oh, yeah.
He is a stud in this. Like, they showed him, he's like throwing a football and you see his little six pack.
He's cute, but he's got that pretty boy look where it's just like, he's like Ken Barbie. You look at him and you're like, well, he's pretty to look at for about 3 seconds and then you want to barf.
He married Rebecca Romaine.
Who's that?
Jesus, Lauren.
Just tell me something I'd recognize her face in.
Mystique from X-Men.
Oh.
Yeah.
She was a model. A model.
Not Jennifer Lawrence.
No. The one before.
Yeah.
She was a model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She used to be Rebecca Romaine Stamos because she was married to John Stamos.
Right.
Then she got de-Stamos and now she's Connelled.
I thought John Stamos was gay, but I guess he's not.
No. He's Uncle Jesse. How dare you call Uncle Jesse gay?
He's just so good looking.
That's your problem with all these dudes. Luckily for me.
So good looking that you're 100% straight. Because guys that are so good looking that they're pretty have got some hormones in them that make them look that pretty. I just don't think you can be that gorgeous.
I think you just tell yourself that straight. Because you married a B.
No.
And not an A.
A's are not attractive. It's like seeing something. It's hard to explain. It's like having a steak that's so perfectly seasoned that it's not quite right.
No, you can't compare it to a steak because there's no such thing as a bad steak. Like, steak is just awesome.
Really? I would beg to differ.
That would be a miss steak.
You could not do that again. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So that brings us to the end of our episode. I hope that you enjoyed this in-depth look at the very poignant and currently important film, Jerry Maguire from 1996. I hope that you don't judge me based on the fact that my heart is made of shit and that I married a woman who has had a shitty heart and I feel like she shit on my heart. Next week, we're going to be reviewing Titanic, and we're going to see if that film holds up. We're going to see if Lauren cries.
I don't cry, but how often have you ever seen me cry?
Never. You never cry at movies.
No.
Is there a movie that has ever made you cry?
P.S. I love you.
God damn it. Is there ever anything other than that basic bitch movie?
You know what? I probably did cry the very first time I saw Titanic.
Did you? No. Like, what's a movie that, like, every time it just gets you? Like, the end of Braveheart, like, every time just chokes me up.
I don't know. I
probably
don't have any.
No one can thaw the ice around her heart. It's just...
I'm too strong.
Strong people cry. It's not a sign of weakness.
No, I know, but I just...
God forbid I ever need to cry at something. Jesus.
I cried once when I had cancer, and that was through pain. That tells you. But once. Once in 12 months.
Ugh,
once.
Man.
And that was only because I was in pain.
I'm going to kick you right in the pussy and see if you cry from that.
I'll only cry at your funeral after that. But just one tear.
Did you just threaten? Wait, is that a thing? You just threatened me.
What? No.
Ouch.
We're just,
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here before someone gets hurt. Make sure to check us out on our Facebook and our Instagrams, and once in a blue moon on our Twitters. And then make sure to go to TalkingPoopPodcast.com for all of the greatness that is Talking Poop. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Please tell a friend, and make sure to get onto iTunes and rate, because I've got like 12 ratings, dude. That's in no way
There's
impressive.
Nothing wrong with hitting the like button. You do it to everything else. Just click the fucking heart.
Just click
and the little
heart.
thumbs up.
It doesn't take anything away from your life to just fucking click the heart. Or just to click the 5 stars. You don't even have to
double click everything else. Just double click.
Exactly. If you double click on a picture of Kim Kardashian, the headline is, "Wow, look at what she's wearing now." You can go and click the 5th star on iTunes. You don't even have to click all 5 stars. Just click the last star, and it turns them all to 5 stars. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, and good night.